Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get you really informed. Today, we're jumping straight into a case that, well, it really gripped the whole country. The sentencing of Bryan Kohberger. This was for the truly horrific murders of 4 University of Idaho students. It's a resolution, finally, but a very grim one.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to unpack today in this deep dive. We're aiming to go, way beyond just the headlines. We'll meticulously look at the investigation, which was incredible, really methodical, that led to Kohberger's arrest, and the legal journey, the winding path to his sentencing. Plus, we really need to explore his background, especially him studying criminology. That part caught everyone's attention.
Yeah, definitely.
You're going to discover some pretty surprising facts about modern forensic investigation, how it all came together. We'll also get into the tough discussions around justice, sentencing, and even tackle that surprising, non-link between studying crime and actually committing it.
Okay, let's get into it. The absolute horror started early on November 13th, 2022. That's when Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Goncalves, and Madison Mogen were brutally stabbed in their own off-campus house in Moscow, Idaho. It's still hard to wrap your head around. And what's even more chilling, 2 other roommates were actually in the house.
But unharmed.
Which just adds another layer of mystery, doesn't it?
It does. And that initial phase, the first few days, weeks, it was a real pressure cooker for law enforcement. The Moscow police chief, James Fry, he quickly said it looked like a targeted attack. But also that the suspect was still out there, which you can imagine created this intense atmosphere of fear, uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely. In that small community especially.
Right. Investigators moved fast. They cleared the surviving roommates, friends. They even checked out a lead, though it wasn't verified, about a possible stalker Kaylee Goncalves might have had. The pressure was just immense to find someone.
And they knew early on, right, that it was an edged weapon, like a knife.
Yes, confirmed early. But crucially, no murder weapon found at the scene.
Which must have been a huge obstacle.
A massive one. And the victims were likely asleep, mostly, though some did have defensive wounds, which tells you there was a struggle for some.
So you have this fog, no weapon, no obvious suspect right away. How did they even start to cut through that?
Well, it's really quite something. Despite that initial lack of, a clear direction, the case broke open. And it was through this multi-layered approach, a combination of cutting-edge forensics and just dogged traditional police work, like a real masterclass in investigation.
Okay, so what was the first big piece? I remember hearing a lot about a car.
The car, yes. The elusive white Hyundai Elantra. That became absolutely pivotal. Investigators just pored over hours and hours of surveillance footage from near the crime scene. Painstaking work. And they spotted this white Elantra. First, they thought 2011 to 2013 models. Then they widened it to include up to 2016.
And this car wasn't just passing by, was it?
No, not at all. The footage showed it making multiple passes by the King Road home. This was between about 3:26 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. on the night of the murders, circling the area, parking nearby, and then, importantly, speeding away right after the estimated time of the killings.
Wow. The level of detail they got from just video footage.
It's incredible these days. And this detail, the Elantra, it was the thread they needed to pull. About 2 weeks after the murders, this was before they even went public about the car, a Washington State University campus cop, acting on an APB, an all-points bulletin, spotted Bryan Kohberger's 2015 white Elantra, registered right there at WSU.
And there was something about the license plate, wasn't there?
Yes, a key detail. Kohberger's car had Pennsylvania plates, and Pennsylvania doesn't require a front license plate.
Unlike Idaho.
Exactly. Idaho mandates one. And the surveillance videos, no front plate visible on the Elantra they saw. So it was a perfect match, one of those small details that just clicks everything into place.
And then there were those traffic stops in Indiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he was driving back east with his dad.
Yeah, December 15th, 2022. Pulled over twice. Police officially called them coincidental at the time. But the timing, just a couple of weeks before his arrest, well, it's certainly fueled a lot of public speculation. Felt almost like fate closing in.
Okay, so they have the car linked to him. But the absolute clincher, the undeniable link, that came down to DNA, didn't it?
It did. Almost invisible, but completely damning. They found a clear DNA sample on the button snap of a leather knife sheath, left right there at the murder scene.
A knife sheath. He left it behind.
Apparently so. And the sheath itself, it looked like it had been wiped clean. No fingerprints, except for this one tiny spot, the button snap, Almost like a mistake, a single point of contact miss.
Unbelievable. So how did they use that tiny sample? It wasn't like his DNA was already in a criminal database, right? This is where that really advanced science came in.
Exactly. This wasn't your standard CODIS hit. This was investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG. It's revolutionary, really. They sent the DNA profile to a private lab, Othram, which specializes in this. They upload the profile to commercial genealogy databases, the kind people use for ancestry research, like 23andMe or Ancestry.com.
Right, I've heard of that.
And the goal isn't usually to find the person directly, but maybe a relative, even a distant one, like a second or third cousin who submitted their DNA. From that link, genealogists can painstakingly build out family trees using public records, census data, obituaries, all sorts of things. And by doing that, they tentatively identified Kohberger around December 19th, 2022. It's like following genealogical breadcrumbs.
That is just mind-blowing, from a button snap to a suspect's name through distant relatives.
Incredible.
And they needed to confirm it, obviously.
Yes, the IgG points the way, but you need direct confirmation for probable cause. So while Kohberger was at his parents' place in Pennsylvania over winter break, police were watching. They collected trash from the family home, and DNA from that trash, specifically from an item linked to his biological father, provided a paternal match.
A match to the DNA on the sheet.
A paternal match, yes. Which was enough. That gave them the probable cause they needed for the arrest warrant. And then, after the arrest, they took a direct cheek swab from Kohberger himself. That sample provided a near-exact match to the DNA on the knife sheath. Case closed on the genetic link. Undeniable.
So you have the car, the DNA. What else solidified the case? There was phone data too, right?
Oh, yeah. The digital footprint was also crucial. Kohberger's cell phone records show some very suspicious activity. For one, his phone was turned off during the critical time window of the murders, roughly 2:47 a.m. to 4:48 a.m.
The classic move if you're trying to hide your location.
Precisely. And then, just outside that window, cell towers pinged his phone traveling near the victim's house. But it wasn't just that night. The record showed his phone had been in the vicinity of the King Road house on, get this, 23 prior occasions, mostly late at night.
23 times?
Yeah.
Wow. That suggests stalking, or at least intense interest.
It certainly points to premeditation or obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And chillingly, his phone pinged near the scene again hours after the murders occurred, maybe returning to observe.
And then there was the eyewitness account from one of the surviving roommates.
Right. Dylan Mortensen. She reported seeing a figure inside the house around the time of the murders. Described as male, 5'10" or taller, not very muscular, dressed all in black, wearing a mask, walking towards the back sliding glass door. She locked herself in her room after seeing him, and that description, reportedly a match for Kohberger.
Just putting all those pieces together, the car, the DNA, the phone pings, the eyewitness, it's a very strong circumstantial case.
Overwhelmingly strong. It really shows how modern investigations work, weaving together all these different strands of evidence.
So with all this evidence piling up, Kohberger's arrested December 30th, 2022, back in Pennsylvania. Charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary. He didn't fight extradition, came back to Idaho. The legal process began.
And prosecutors were clear from fairly early on, June 2023, they were seeking the death penalty, which in Idaho now involves the firing squad as the state's preferred method, after a law signed by Governor Brad Little. The defense tried, naturally, to get the death penalty taken off the table, but they weren't successful.
But then, after all the build-up to a potential death penalty trial and numerous delays, he took a plea deal.
He did. On July 2nd, 2025, after a lot of legal back and forth, Bryan Kohberger accepted a plea deal, pled guilty to all charges, the 4 counts of murder, the burglary charge, and in doing so, he avoided facing the death penalty.
Which led to the sentencing just recently, July 23rd, 2025.
Correct. He was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. And consecutive is key here. It means the sentences run one after the other. Essentially, 4 lifetimes in prison. He will never get out.
Life without parole, meaning truly life.
Exactly. Spend the rest of his natural life incarcerated. And part of that plea deal was crucial. He waived his right to any future appeals.
So this is it. Legally speaking, it's final.
It's final.
The sentencing hearing itself must have been incredibly emotional, especially with the victim impact statements.
Deeply emotional. Dylan Mortensen, the surviving roommate who saw the figure, she spoke publicly for the first time. She said, "What happened that night changed everything." Powerful words. And she looked directly at Kohberger, calling him a hollow vessel, something less than human, a body without empathy, without remorse. But she ended with strength, saying, "He will never get to take my voice." Just incredibly brave.
Absolutely. And the other surviving roommate, Bethany Funke.
Her statement was read by a friend. She spoke of immense regret and guilt for not knowing what happened, that profound survivor's guilt, asking, why me? Why did I get to live and not them? Just heartbreaking. She also talked about the aftermath, getting death threats, being harassed on social media. The ripple effects are just devastating.
Now, the plea deal itself, it wasn't universally accepted, particularly by some of the victims' families. Steve Goncalves, Kaylee's father, was very vocal.
Very vocal. He expressed deep dissatisfaction, felt the prosecutors failed the families by not consulting them properly, in his view. He specifically took issue with the prosecution, saying there wasn't a sexual component to the crime. Goncalves claimed investigators told the family about Kohberger having, quote, weird porn fetishes, including things like drunk, passed-out girls and gagging girls.
And he believes those were part of what happened.
He strongly believes they were, quote, two things that were part of that crime scene. He feels that without a trial, his family will never get the closure they need because the full story wasn't aired in court. It's raw grief and anger.
How does that usually work, legally? Do prosecutors need the family's permission for a plea deal?
That's a common point of confusion and contention. James Alan Fox, a criminology expert, clarified this. He explained it's normal and appropriate to inform families about a plea deal, keep them in the loop. But prosecutors don't legally need their permission or consent. They represent the state, the people of the state of Idaho, not just the individual families.
So it's a broader public interest calculation for the prosecution.
Right. And Fox also pointed out that avoiding a trial, while perhaps unsatisfying for some, does spare families the prolonged agony of court proceedings, appeals that can drag on for years. It provides certainty. And he also mentioned not all the families, like the Mojans and Chapins, necessarily wanted the death penalty pursued. So it's complex. There's rarely total unity among victims' families on these things.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to that other really talked about aspect, Kohberger's background, a PhD student in criminology.
Yes, at Washington State University, which is, only 8 miles away from the crime scene in Moscow, Idaho, very close proximity. And he already had bachelor's and master's degrees in criminology. He'd even applied for an internship with the local Pullman Police Department,
stating he wanted to help with analyzing technological data for them. It seems almost ironic, disturbing.
It definitely struck a chord. There's this immediate, almost knee-jerk reaction to think, okay, he studied crime, so maybe he thought he could commit the perfect one. But experts like James Alan Fox again, and also former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole, they really pushed back hard against this idea.
They debunk that connection.
Strongly. They emphasize that studying criminology doesn't make someone become a criminal, nor does it make them a better criminal. Criminology is about the how come. Why is crime happen? What are the social factors, the psychological factors, the patterns? It's analytical, absolutely not about the how-to of committing crimes. That's a fundamental misunderstanding.
So the idea that his studies gave him some kind of criminal edge is just wrong.
Pretty much, yeah. In fact, Mary Ellen O'Toole pointed out the opposite. She said Kohberger made a tremendous number of elementary mistakes. Mistakes from both a forensic and a technological standpoint. Things that directly led to him getting caught.
Like leaving the knife sheath.
Leaving the sheath, being caught on multiple cameras in his distinctive car, the cell phone activity. These are not the actions of a criminal mastermind trying to apply academic knowledge. O'Toole concluded his actions seemed more like need-driven behavior, impulsive perhaps, rather than some kind of scholarly, calculated experiment in crime.
So much for the idea of learning how to commit the perfect crime from textbooks or TV shows.
Exactly. That's largely a media creation, a mischaracterization of what criminology and forensic psychology are actually about. Real-life crime, even by someone who studied it, is often messy and leaves trails.
So looking back at this whole case, this deep dive really highlights how critical that combination was, the meticulous, persistent police work alongside truly groundbreaking forensic science. That's what brought this to a resolution.
It really does. It's a testament to the power of modern investigation when those elements work together. Science provided those undeniable links.
But it also underscores the human element, doesn't it? The profound grief of the families, the controversy around legal strategies like plea deals, that ongoing search for why. That remains incredibly complex, even when the who is known.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a really important question to think about, doesn't it? As our law enforcement tools get sharper, more precise, more technologically advanced, How do we make sure the justice system keeps addressing the full impact, the impact on the victims, on society, while still ensuring accountability? It's this constant balancing act between, scientific certainty and the very human pursuit of justice.
A balance between the precision of science and the complexities of human justice. That's definitely something to keep pondering. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.